I would like to call to order the regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District for March 13th, 2019. May I please get members present?
Shakil Ali is not present. Marie Brizuela.
Here.
Maybell Monio.
Here.
Manufo Liainga Anawai.
Here.
Clayton Koo.
Here. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Valenti, would you like to lead us today?
Actually, we do have a student that would like to address us. So, Mr. Franklin, if you wouldn't mind coming forward, please.
Could you please say the Pledge of Allegiance with me?
Yes,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Franklin. Next item is the board meeting guidelines. Board members will review the board meeting guidelines and report how well they adhere to the meeting guidelines at the end of the meeting. Next is the approval of the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda. I'll second it.
For first and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. Next is special presentations. 2019 JESD Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics Fair. Ms. Noelle Sullivan, STEM Fair Facilitator and Principal at Garden Village, will give a presentation on and acknowledge the winners of the 2019 STEM Fair and participants in the County STEM Fair as well.
Good evening, board members, and good evening, cabinet members. I'm Noelle Sullivan Haley, principal over at Garden Village, and I have a little quick slideshow to celebrate the great talent that we have here in our district for this year's 2019 STEM Fair. I'm going to start off with some thank yous. I'd like to firstly thank all the science fair coordinators at every site in our district who worked very hard with their students and making sure that the STEM Fair projects got to Fernando and Thomas Edison and made sure they went back safely. Also, I wanted to thank Stephen Fredericks. He is the director of the math, engineering, and science over at Skyline College. And he and his students, they come down every year and volunteer their time to go through all the projects. So they come around 4:35 and they stay till about 7:30 the evening before, and they go through every one of those STEM fairs with a fine-tooth comb. So I really want to thank them for that. And a big thank you to all our Jefferson teachers and the students and families who, especially the families who support their students during this process. Thank you. So I'm going to go through our winners from 3rd grade up to 8th grade. So from Daniel Webster is my good old friend Baron Franklin. He placed 3rd for his project Conducting Electricity. 3rd grade were these two lovely ladies, Allison Cartnega Martinez and Valerie Chavez from John F. Kennedy School. They did a project on crystals and it placed 3rd. At Ben Franklin, we had some 8th graders, Jeremiah Manolastis and Bruce Mio Mitchell Sepnio. Their name of their project was Compressed Air, and they were 2nd place winners. They also went on to the San Mateo County Fair earlier this month. In 7th grade, and pardon me if I mispronounce your name, Taiga Nishida from Ben Franklin. This was one of my favorites. I know we shouldn't have favorites, but it was called Detecting Sidewalks, and this was our 1st place winner for 7th grade. Carlos Menendez from Ben Franklin, Bacteria Battle, he was our 2nd place winner in 7th grade. Callista Sumatra and Melanie Garcia, After Image, Ben Franklin students also, and they placed 3rd for 7th grade. and now some of our primary grades. In fourth grade, we had Emma Anderson and Martin Malaya Apse. Don't judge a book by its color. And first place for Woodrow Wilson. In fifth grade, we had Giselle Herrera, Natalie Annunciason for pH water testing. Woodrow Wilson students again, first place, and they also received honorable mention. Fernando Rivera, my old stomping ground, we had Christine Zhang, our sixth grader, who placed third in what melts ice fastest. Arda, right behind me here, Broto from Fernando Rivera, our eighth grader. He placed best in show and also was our third place winner here in the district. Kinmei Mei Lewin from Fernando Rivera, also eighth grader. She was our first place winner. Ethan Rayo from Fernando Rivera, our sixth grader, right behind me here. The title of his project was called The 5-Second Rule, and he placed first in his grade. Jeremy Zhang, I think we have brother and sister here tonight. In third grade, the title of his project was Airplanes, and he's from Marjorie H. Tobias, third place. And Ms. Gotai's class did a class project on owl pellets, and they placed first in the district for our third graders. I wanted to thank all of you for attending, and some of our board members came also. Thank you. And it was another great, successful year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One last thing before we present the students, our STEM students with their certificates and calculators. Every year we have a special middle school plaque. For the most projects that placed in grades 6 through 8. And this year we had a tie again between Ben Franklin and Fernando Rivera. So Nena Cabrera, on behalf of Fernando Rivera, would you like to take the...
Thank you. Do any members have comments before we present? No? Okay. So I have certificates for all the students, so I will pass along to every member.
This is for the whole class?
Yeah.
This is a certificate for first place awarded, excellence in science. Ms. Costen's class, and this is in school.
Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison?
Yes.
Okay. So, congratulations on your good project, and where would you so, who wants to hold it? How would you each take a little corner? Congratulations, you did great. And this is a certificate for second place, Jeremy Zhang. Acknowledging your achievement in the science fair. Congratulations. And then this excellence in science certificate for third place award to Baron Franklin.
Baron.
There he is. Thank you.
Science, and this certificate is for first place going out to Emma Anderson. Oh, sorry. This goes goes out to Marthin Belena Akse. And we have Excellence in Science going for second place to Royzon Purcell. This certificate of third place goes out to Allison Cartagena Martinez. Okay, we're gonna do it. We'll make sure she gets it.
Yes.
Certificate of third place goes out to Valeria Chavez.
I gotta ask you.
Certificate of third place also goes out to Calista Samatra Montalvo. And this goes out to certificate of third place for Melanie Garcia. Congratulations.
I'd like to present this certificate of first place to Aida Nishida. Okay. I want to present this certificate of first place to Natalie Anunciacion. I want to present this certificate of first place to Giselle Herrera Segura. I'd like to present this certificate of second place to Mateo Guardado. Sorry. I'd like to present this certificate of third place to Ali Luo. And the certificate of second place to Carlos Menendez.
I have a couple certificates for sixth grade. I have a certificate for third place, Christine Zhang. Second place is Isabella Estaquillo. And first place is Ethan Rayo.
We have another first place award for, it's Jen May Lewin.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Next one is for Mitchell Leon. Seth Leon. Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. Next one is Bruce Liano. Bruce? No? And the last one for third place is Arda Bota.
Very good.
Good job.
So congratulations to all the students, and on behalf of the board and everybody else, we just want to say congratulations and best of luck, and wish you guys to do even better projects in 2020. So just want to extend another round of applause again.
I would just like to say it's a great opportunity for the students to do this project, and we thank them and thank the parents for, encouraging them to do this, because it will only lead to more and more. And one of these people, little children here, are going to become scientists one day and look back and say, I got my first project over here. So thank you, everybody, for doing a great, great job.
This is always my favorite part of being a board trustee, is being able to celebrate a lot of the accomplishments and leaderships that we see in our students. And of course, it doesn't come without the support of family and educators, and I love that we have collaborating partners in the community. I also want to take this opportunity because I saw a student that was recognized out of Edison, and I wouldn't be sitting in this seat this evening if it wasn't for someone who held me up on her strong shoulders many years ago. And her great-granddaughter is being acknowledged tonight out of Thomas Edison. And my cousin Tewila Tuyasasopo, her mother, Luma Tuyasasopo, was a Psalm 1 activist in San Francisco. And because of her, I was able to learn what leadership looked like. And I believe that that's what all of you are doing for all of the students that we are recognizing tonight. So I believe that I'm a testament of someone holding someone up and making sure that they make it through the doors and get to have the opportunity to climb up that ladder. So I'm very grateful to be able to sit here and share that with you this evening.
Cool. Thank you again. If you guys wanted to just step out, feel free to step out right now.
Next time, just say we're going to take a brief moment. If you want to leave, if you want to get out of here right now, no, just kidding. I know it's awkward because they make a lot of noise. So that's why we just say we'll take a few minutes to clear the rooms. We have got to get these names so we can say it right. I'm so embarrassed. I think when I get nervous, my tongue gets tied more. It's like, and also we should be knowing who's not here. I keep telling that to Bernie, because otherwise it looks embarrassing. Oops.
Okay. So we'll proceed to item 7A, board member acknowledgement and commendations. Who'd like to start first? Ms. Delgado away. Would you like to go first?
I couldn't help but admire the red, so yes. I don't have any other acknowledgements or commendations, but to basically say I celebrated enjoying the sun today, and I hope that all of us get to enjoy some vitamin D a little bit more. Thank you.
Yes, I too enjoyed the sun today and went out for a walk in Daly City. And that was nice. I do want to say that I attended the Wellness Committee meeting last Tuesday, and it was a good meeting. Unfortunately, my first and only for the school year, but hopefully I'll be on the committee again next school year. And we discussed different things, random different things, from Takis at school. Do you know the chips? TAKIS? I guess it's something that is of concern because of the chemicals that are in it, and also what is a policy versus a practice, and what can legally be instated in terms of our children's nutrition and wellness and things like that. So it was a good meeting.
say either, other than, what's the red for? Did you say everybody's in red? Because I'm not wearing red, but I have a red book. So whatever the red represents, I'm here.
Union solidarity.
All right.
Red for raise.
Yeah, the
Red
raise.
for Ed. Red for Ed and raise.
Oh. That's good. So anyway, just glad to be here, everybody, and I'm not going to say too much to get the meeting rolling here. So.
I just wanted to comment on a couple events I was able to attend since the last meeting. There was a family night for social emotional learning for parents at Thomas Edison. That was a great an hour and a half discussion in terms of how best to sort of how parents could work with their students as well as their kids to make sure that they're actually addressing their needs, as well as making sure that in terms of kind of social concerns and problems that they're addressing them the most effective way possible. And then I also attended Susan B. Anthony's Community Math Night. There were different workshops and stations for parents and students to walk around and learn more about what the new math curriculum was. So I just want to commend both of those on a job well done. Next item is 7B, correspondence and superintendent comments.
I don't have much. Just for those members of the public who watched our last board meeting and are interested in knowing which architectural firm did we select, we went with the Lowney Architects Group, and we are working with them to develop a contract that will be coming to the board at a subsequent meeting. Another fabulous sort of meeting that I was able to have with Ms. McCulick and Ms. Martinez this week was with a group called Communities in Schools. They had a great program that I think will help us move forward with our community schools initiative. We've been sort of stalled, specifically around selecting or identifying a coordinator. I think they can help us in that aspect of the project. So they will be coming to the board at a next meeting to also share with the board what they do and get direction for how we can move forward with them. And thank you to Ms. Leigano'ai, who ran into them, and they asked if they could talk to me, and she said, sure, call them. Yeah, I'll send an email. So thank you for the connection. Open door policy, always looking for ways to improve what we can offer.
Cool. Thank you. Next item is item 7C, administrator comments. No? Okay. Next item is 7D, persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. Are there any speakers?
They're looking for the
Okay,
cards.
seeing none. Next item is item 8A, the consent agenda.
I think she went to go get it.
Any comments or anything to? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Could I get a point of clarification on an item?
Sure.
Item E.
Item E.
Where's he? Over here.
AT. Periodically, we get claims against the district, and our insurance group advises us to deny the claim or to accept the claim. And this is a case of a denial. And I would be glad to speak with you about it in private.
So there's a first. Any items to be pulled? If not, I'll entertain a second.
I'll second the motion.
There's a first and a second. Can I get a roll call vote?
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Ms. Manio,
Aye.
Ms. Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
and Mr. Koo.
Aye.
Just for clarification, when it's a denial of a claim, it's because we have to deny it, and then it can go on to the insurance
That's
company.
correct. No, the insurance receives it first, they review it, and they make a recommendation to the board. And then it goes on to the next step after that.
Doesn't mean we don't care.
Okay, next item is item 8C, fiscal year 2018-2019 second interim budget review. Ms. Kessler.
Good evening. So here we are with the second interim. And of course, the second interim is the second time we're bringing the financials to you to make sure we can meet our obligations for the current and the subsequent 2 years. It is a snapshot in time, January 31st of this year. We include, in the official multi-year projection, we have 2 years, but in this report, we have 3 years, just for an extra year out so we can see what it looks like. So first off, I just want to let you know how we've changed since the first interim. We have a net decrease in revenues of $455,000. The majority of that is because our LCFF went down as a result of our unduplicated percentage going down. In addition to that, we have additional contributions to special ed, both for the county programs and the non-public schools. There are some increases in revenues, and that would be from the transfer in from the technology reserve into the general fund, and then some donations and interest. Also, since the first interim, we have a net increase in expenditures of $350,000. Mind you, that is a net increase. So included in the second interim is the salary increase negotiated for the 18-19 school year of 1% on and 1% off schedule. And the donations, the expenditures increase in accordance with the increase in revenues, which you just saw on the previous page. An additional IT tech person, which came on mid-year. And then we have some decreases in expenditures from some unfilled positions that did not get filled this year, and so we take them out of the budget. And also a decrease in the special ed transportation with the County Office of Ed. So our multi-year projection is something that is really important to look at. And our assumptions that are built into the multi-year projection are important as well. And as you know, the Governor Newsom had his January proposal for the 1920 budget. So our multi-year projection is based on his proposal. So the COLA is listed up there for the years. This is what the state has basically told us that the COLA is supposed to be, but it changes regularly. And Governor Newsom does not plan on giving us any kind of one-time funds. So in the current year, we have $1.1 million of one-time funds, and then next year we don't have any one-time funds because he does not plan on doing that. Legislature may decide otherwise, but at this point, we do not have any one-time funds planned for the 1920 school year. Included in the budget is, as usual, the increase in STRS and PERS. However, the governor has in his budget, and as I presented to you at the January proposal that I did in January for you, he does plan a one-time decrease to our STRS contribution for the 1920 year of just over 1%. And then again, another one-time decrease in 2021 of 1%. And then after that, he's putting $700 million towards the long-term, the 30-year plan on bringing STRS up to date. And that will decrease our yearly contribution of 0.5%. And so that 0.5% at this point would be $176,000 ongoing. So it's, if it does go through, it's basically like 2 one-time amounts and 1 ongoing amount. And anytime there's something ongoing that helps us, it's significant. And so we're hoping that this comes through. And this might be something that Governor Newsom chooses to do, as opposed to Governor Brown, who regularly gave us one-time funds. He may decide to give, again, one-time funds that decreases a 1-year STRS amount, and then ongoing funds to decrease the long-term liability, which would always be a good thing, because we have that long-term liability coming down the pike. In addition to that, in the multi-year projection, we have adjusted the LCF revenues to recognize the decrease in unduplicated count, and it is a 3-year average, so that percentage changes throughout, and once we get to 2020-21, then provided it remains steady, then each year out would be 70.69%, because that's what we have this year. And then we lose a declining enrollment protection. So we have declining enrollment this year for the 3rd year in a row. And if it doesn't come up next year, we will stay at what the enrollment is this year. For the 18-19 year, we are getting our LCFF funds based on last year's attendance, which is based on last year's enrollment. And so whichever one is higher. So if next year we go up, then it's whichever is the higher of the 2 years. And for this year, it's last year that's higher. So this is a really important slide. If you recall, in the first interim report, we had a structural deficit, and we still do have a structural deficit. It's just not quite as bad as it was. We had a structural deficit where in year 2021, we had to make a $2.4 million ongoing reduction. And in the interim report, that reduction was of undesignated expenditures. Well, the County Office of Ed came to us and said, great, we think that you should reduce expenditures, but we don't want them to be undesignated. We want you to label them and say what they're going to be. And at that meeting in January, when I presented what the governor presented, Board Trustee Ali asked us to not wait until we had to make those reductions in order to meet our 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. He asked if we could look at it and make reductions earlier if possible. So Cabinet got together and we came up with a list of different types of reductions. And we also explained to you that there are several different types of reductions. There's the back-end administrator type reductions where we're reacting to the declining enrollment. And also to site budgets. Then there's reductions that could be related to the LCAP, which we haven't come out with yet. And then there are the board reductions that come to you to determine what kind of cuts do we want to make in program, and if there are any kind of layoffs. And of course, that's the one we are hoping to avoid. We don't want to make any kind of layoffs. We don't want to have any kind of reductions in programs. But if we need to come to you with that, we will come to you in good time and let you know that. So what we're looking at here are the back-end cuts, reductions. And some of them are reductions and expenditures, and some are recognition of revenues that we may not have recognized before. And one of those is, and also on February 9th, we had a superintendent's budget committee and trustees, Mr. Koo and Mrs. Brizuela joined us, and we reviewed these to find out if they had any questions or concerns, so we can just kind of get some feedback on that. So I'll go over these reductions with you, but first I'm going to go over the increases. I guess the pointer doesn't work anymore, right? The increases in revenues and transfers into the general fund. And so the first one is our MAW revenues, and that's for Medicare administrative revenues that we get. And in the past, we've only recognized these revenues when we've received them, because we're never really sure what we're going to get. However, we decided that at this point, we can't just not recognize them. It's too conservative of us to do that at this point. And so we took a really conservative look at what the revenues we could expect. And we felt that $150,000 a year of revenues as an average would be definitely reachable. And so we've included this 150,000 through for each of those years, 1920 through 21-22. In addition to that, we have, every year we make, since LCFF came into play, a lot of categorical programs disappeared on us because they got folded into the LCFF funding formula. And one of those categorical programs was deferred maintenance. We no longer get funds for deferred maintenance. So rather than sweep deferred maintenance under the carpet at the time, we decided that we would continue to fund it. And so we transferred $400,000 on a yearly basis over, which is approximately the amount that we used to get from categorical programs, so we could do deferred maintenance. Of course, we would still like to do deferred maintenance, but right now we have bond funds from Measure I, we have bond funds from Measure U, and we have SFP funds that we still have available to us, a few $1,000,000, and we have Prop 39 energy savings funds that we are using now. So for now, we've decided that it is best to hold off on that contribution to the deferred maintenance and recognize that there are some deferred maintenance things that we'll have to scrutinize more carefully as to whether we need to do those now or not, and hold off on them until hopefully enrollment goes up or the state decides to increase the base funding. So in light of that, we have $400,000 that is not being transferred out of the general fund. And that means that when you transfer those out, it reduces revenues. It recognizes revenues in a different fund and not in the general fund. So those are going to stay in. In addition to that, we have two reserves that we had set up. We have a technology reserve that is held in Fund 40 and a textbook reserve that is held in Fund 17. And we are bringing some of those funds in the technology to support technology and to support not salaries and benefits, but to support product of technology. And then for the textbook reserves, usually we would bring in the funds to help pay for the textbook adoption. We have decided that bringing in funds for the professional development to have the proper training for those adoptions should be charged to that for now as well. And in the future, when we have more funds, again, one day we will, I'm sure we will, we'll be able to start contributing to these again. And then we'll be able to use them again when we need to, like we're doing now. Then we get to the expenditures, and so how have we reduced the expenditures? So all these things I'm going over are in the multi-year projection of the second interim report. And then you'll see that in the next page. So we're reducing expenditures in the out years of 2021 and 21-22 of 10% of the site discretionary funds. They've already been reduced for their supplemental and concentration grant funds, and that's happened for next year already. In addition to that, we have a reduction of 13 FTE that follows the enrollment, the drop in enrollment and workload. And we have a delay of filling vacant positions until funds can support that. And part of that is in our maintenance where we haven't been able to fill those positions. We have open positions and the whole county is fighting over anybody who's qualified for maintenance. It's a very difficult position to fill because we can't find qualified people. With the fires that have happened and the buildings that have been going on, technology and such, these people that would qualify are just simply not around. So there's the delay in filling those vacant positions, and then there's some department cuts, and those department cuts are from superintendent's office, business office, HR office, curriculum instruction, where there are in-services, there is travel and conference, which in essence is an in-service. there are substitutes for in services. So these are areas that we felt that we could hold off on doing, maybe reducing our conferences and others in services. So all of these are included, and then if you add those up, you would add up the increase in revenues and the decrease in expenditures, and of course you come up with savings of $2.6 million in 1920, $2.5 million in 2021, and $2.4 million in 21-22. I do want you to see at the very bottom there that in order to meet our reserve for economic uncertainty in 21-22, given the status quo that we have now, we would have to make another reduction of $1 million. However, when we go on to the next slide, we don't believe we will at this point have to get there, and I'll show you on the next slide, which you have full pages on that, so you can actually read the numbers. Not that you can read them very well here. So if you look at the second column of 2018-19, it's the second interim, and if you look at the third yellow row down, you see that we have a budgeted deficit spending, and this is a structural deficit. So again, a structural deficit means our current year revenues do not cover our current year expenditures. The expenditures are higher by nearly $4.8 million in the budget. However, when we close out the year, we don't expect it to be this high. We expect there would be carryovers, funds that weren't spent, and so we expect that number to be around $2.5 million. So if we're right and it's around $2.5 million, that means it's $2.3 million in a better position than we thought, which would mean that we could hold off on that 2021-22 million reduction in order to meet our reserve for economic uncertainty. However, I do want to point out that even though that number is more likely to be around $2.5 million, it's still a negative. It's still a structural deficit. And so then when we look at year 1920, we now see from the previous slide the effect of those reductions that we have and the increased revenues that we have. And so on the first interim report in 1920, we had a $3.6 million deficit spending, and here we have a $1.9 million. And mind you, in the first interim, we did not have that salary increase of the one-on, one-off schedule, but it is in this one, okay? So, and then in 2021, we had a $3.8 million deficit spending. Now it will be down to $2.1 million. And in 21-22, after adding back the $2.4 million of undesignated cuts, we would have had basically $2.4 million of deficit spending. And here we're almost not deficit spending. We would have $168,000 plus the $1 million. So $1,168,000 that we're deficit spending. That's a structural deficit. Again, we feel that will be pushed off because we expect to end this year better by $2.3 million than is in the budget. And that's a normal thing because we're budgeting the authorization to spend funds, not what we actually think it's going to be. So, to move on, when you look at this is what happens to our end fund balance. So we're using it. We start with 6.1 million, and then we have to use some, we go down, we have to use some again, we go down again. And the last one at 1.9 million, that would be our end balance after cutting $1 million. So if we didn't cut that $1 million, then instead of having 1.9 million, we would have $900,000, and we would not have our 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. So, things I would like you to keep in mind when you are thinking about the future and what this holds is what's in the multi-year projection is step and column. There are no additional increases included in the multi-year projection, so any kind of bargained increases are not in here. We're assuming flat enrollment, so we're assuming that there's not going to be any more declining enrollment. If there is declining enrollment, that will affect us greatly again, depending on how much it is. But if the enrollment goes up, it has a wonderful effect on us. And matter of fact, as I've said many times, if it wasn't for our declining enrollment in these last 3 years, we would be in a very comfortable position. We would not be in a structural deficit position. Also, it includes assumes a flat unduplicated percentage. As you saw in the other, it went on from that 70.69%, and hopefully that will stay. Although minimum wage is going up each year, and that could hurt our families being able to qualify for services. But hopefully the feds one day will not consider the poverty level for California being the same as it is for Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, because it is right now. And $15 an hour there would get you a lot further than it gets you here. Also, just to keep in mind, we had that, we've got that reserve for health and welfare, and I just wanted to be able to show you what that was again. And what the district does is the district picks up 80% of an increase, and employees are picking up 20% of the increase. We started out with $1,350,000, and last year we used $153,000. This year we're using $267,000, and we have budgeted for next year $267,000 as well. So after this year, we'll have $929,000 in that reserve, and that should get us over another at least two, I would say, even with increases, possibly 3 years, that the reserves would cover this 80% increase. And of course, that depends on how much medical benefits increase, and we don't really have control over that. And then I just want you to keep in mind that we have had the longest recovery from a recession. I think it's the second longest ever. And a recession will come, we just don't know exactly when. I mean, people have been saying it all along. We do have an inverted bond yield, which means that currently a 2-year bond pays more than a 10-year bond, which is very unusual. That means if you put your money out for 10 years, into a 10-year bond, you're going to get less money, less interest, lower interest rate than you are for a 2-year bond right now. And that does not happen very often. That is a big indicator of potential recession. So how that might affect the district, just keep that in mind. We don't know how that's going to affect it. So, oops. All right. So we do have a second interim financial report with 2 years of multi-year projection where we can meet our financial obligations. And by approving this budget with all the ingredients that I've given you, we do have a positive certification that we can meet our financial obligations. So I would recommend that it is approved with a positive certification. Any questions?
Are there any questions from my board members?
No?
I have several. The decrease in the transportation expenses, is that because of our contract with third-party drivers and not with the bus? Did that happen?
No, it's the County Office of Ed has the contract, and every year they have to estimate at the beginning, before the year even starts, what the total costs are going to be for transportation. And we budget in accordance with what they say it's going to be. And then we also have to project how many students we're going to be having that are going to be transported by them. And so what happens is they see what the costs are actually going to be, how many buses they really need to be able to distribute this, pick up the students and bring them to the county programs. This is only for the county programs ones.
Okay.
That cost, or if it's an increased cost or a reduction in cost, then we recognize it at that time. So we've gone through half the year and we see what kind of cost there is, and so we adjust accordingly. And so it's a $200,000 savings.
Great. Two more questions.
Sure.
The deferred maintenance, what kind of activities are included in that?
Okay, so I'll just give you an example. For the last 4 years, we had been putting in $400,000. That was $1.6 million that we had saved up. We had re-roofed Woodrow Wilson and part of Ben Franklin. And we used all the funds for that.
Okay.
That's just what we've done in the last 4 years from that. But it can be other things too. It can be broken pipes. It can be painting. There can be a lot of different things. But we can also use our bond funds for many of the different things.
So Ben Franklin has half a roof?
Part of it was re-roofed, and I'm not exactly sure the reason why the whole thing wasn't re-roofed, but it was, I think, I don't know, Bernie, do you remember what it was?
So it's just a patch job?
Might be that half of it was older.
Yeah, but the rest didn't need it?
And I wouldn't say half, I think it was a little bit more than half, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Have to take a look at it.
I have one more question.
Okay.
So, for the MA revenues, can we increase it, and how? Is it possible?
Well, we're doing the best that we can. We do work with a consultant that reaches out into all the employees that participate in the MA program and gets them all to go online and put in the information that they need in order to qualify us for greater funding. The one thing about the MA program, however, is that there are a whole bunch of different districts together. And so we are dependent as well on how well the other districts do it as well. So we're not, so if we had 100% participation, we have pretty good participation. But let's say we have 90%. If we got 100%, we wouldn't get that much more unless all the other districts did the same. Our increased percentage helps all of them. Their increased percentage helps us, and their decreased percentage hurts us. So we're in a big group.
Okay, what, just to unpack that a little bit more, what employees participate in this MA program, and what are they
I
doing?
believe the psychologists, the nurses.
Yeah, only certain employees do. I think you've heard nurses, psychologists, speech pathologists. And they're all put in this pool, and they get randomly selected a couple times a quarter, and they have to log their activities for that week that they're selected.
So only services where they can bill Medi-Cal,
Only
but
billable.
not enrollment into Medi-Cal. Does that count?
Yes, that's part of that, yes.
outreach?
And then they also do directs, some of our speech pathologists and our nurses also get direct Medi-Cal reimbursement, which is different than
Than
MAA.
this?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm just, because to me, because I'm so familiar with this, it's a low-hanging fruit for me. So if we can increase this revenue,
It certainly, we did have, what were we doing at some point? Close to 500, maybe 600,000?
Right, and then the feds
Then
came
they
in and
changed-
retroactively cut it.
They changed how they were monitored. We used to have more employees qualify. Everybody did it at the same week. It was changed, and now it's random and applied proportionately to the number of employees in this whole group. So now we're part of a consortium, and our participation is averaged with their participation. And we have X amount of students who qualify, teachers or staff who qualify, they have X amount, so we just take the proportion of the whole.
Okay, thank you.
Does it? Ms. Kessler, I know you mentioned on the decreased expenditures, and you had spoke to a budget was removed for unfilled positions. I was just curious how many positions that was and then if the dollar amount. It's on your first page, or your second page, actually.
So a little background on why we're delaying that. So we have a number of unfilled positions, and rather than have those positions live in the budget as unfilled and take away resources and so hard to fill, we decided we would pull them out of the budget until it gets to be a time where we can actually fill them, because otherwise we would need to release people who currently have a job. Instead of releasing the ghost that sits in this position. So it is a moving around of funds, but we don't want something to live in the budget that's not going to be able to be filled.
So additionally, let me add to that. You know how every year the budget is conservative, right? And at the end of the year, it comes out more favorable than what the budget is showing. And part of that is because those amounts, even though we don't have somebody to fill the job, they still reside in the budget.
And is that amount different from what you have on the following page where it says delay filling vacant positions? Are those the amounts that are
Those are
reflective?
the ones for the out years, whereas these are for these are for the current year. This is from first interim to second interim, so this is 18-19, whereas these, as you see across the top there, it's from 19-20 through 21-22.
Okay, that's what I was asking, because I didn't see the current year. Like you said, those are the out years, so that's why I was curious what that amount was.
Yeah, that's just the multi-year projection portion of it.
So how much is the amount for 18-19?
Okay, for 18-19. $264,000.
Thank you.
Including benefits, both statutory and health and welfare.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. If there are none, we have to take action on this item. Ms. Vidales, can we vote on all at one time, or do we?
Yes, you can make a motion for all three of those elements.
Okay.
And they're already in that.
Yep. Does anyone want to make a motion on to take action on any of those items?
I'll make the motion to approve our second interim budget review as listed, including the review of the second interim, approving the filing of positive certification of final financial condition, and approve the revision to the working budget to correspond with the projected year totals.
Second.
So there's a first and a second to review the second interim, approve the filing of the positive certification of financial condition, and approve the revision to the working budget to correspond with the projected year totals. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Kessler.
Thank you,
Next
Ms.
item is
Kessler.
item 8D, Personnel Commission's 2018 Annual Report. The administration recommends acknowledgement of the receipt of the 2018 Personnel Commission Report. Education Code Section 45266 requires an annual report be prepared and forwarded to the governing board outlining its activities.
All right, thank you all very much. As was noted, I do have a requirement to do an annual report to the board regarding personnel commission activities throughout the year. This is from January 1st to December 31st, 2018. Just want to start by recognizing our personnel commissioners. We have Ms. Sonia Reyes, who is appointed by the fellow commissioners. Ms. Reyes' term ends on December 1st, 2019. Mr. Dennis Shreve, who's appointed by classified employees, CSEA Chapter 233, and Mr. Shreve's appointment shall expire on December 1st, 2020. And then Mr. Appel was appointed by the Board of Trustees, and his appointment expired on December 1st, 2018. We're currently advertising for another commissioner for the board's appointment, and we have that posted at San Francisco Chronicle, the San Mateo Times. We have it posted in local libraries, the Saramonte, John Daly, and Westlake branch, also at schools and our website and at the district office. And that application window closes on March 18th. So I just wanted to start by reviewing our Personnel Commission goals. I just highlighted one or two subpoints to each of the goals, 9 in all. Goal number 1, maintaining efficient Personnel Commission operations. One of the main things we've been doing over the last few years is the increase of electronic applications and automated online processing of new employees. So as new employees come on, we send them an email. They fill out a lot of the relevant paperwork that gets pre-populated. So when they come to do their final things in the office, it's a much shorter time period to transfer, do the process. Working and partnering with classified employees to identify and prioritize professional development opportunities. Goal number 3, maintain recruitment selection systems based on merit principles. We've really broadened our recruitment tools, working with Indeed, ZipRecruiter, governmentjobs.com, to broaden the qualified candidate pool. Ms. Kessler mentioned, particularly in maintenance, where we have a lot of construction going on. It has been difficult to find folks that meet the minimum qualifications even to move forward to test. And then to get them into test, pass the test, it has been a little more difficult. So we need to broaden that pool. And focus on offering career advancement and guidance and promotional opportunities for our current employees to move up into different classifications. We have goal number 4, coordinating and monitor the employee performance evaluation system. So working with administrators and supervisors to provide in-service to support their employees in the improvement of their job performance. Goal number 5, updating rules and regulations. We need to get started and review. There are some rules in the Personnel Commission that need some revisions. In my 4 years I've been here, there hasn't been any changes. I don't know what's happened in the past prior, but to go through and to identify at least one major section. Improving and developing lines of communication in various areas. We do go out with the Personnel Commission to visit 3 schools a year, make ourselves available to meet with classified employees at those schools, and then also trying to bring up more informal meetings regularly with CSEA and the CSEA leadership. Goal number 7, to maintain an effective classification plan and monitoring the compliance of the current commission plan based on the recent classifications and compensation studies. Goal number 8, application of our rules and regulations to apply the rules and regulations in a fair, consistent, and uniform manner. And finally, this is something that was a good experience we had, having a joint meeting with the governing board to meet to improve communication and better understand board and commission rules. Some of the highlights this year I'd like to point out were we've had 26 job announcements that were posted. That was up from 16 from last year. 24 eligibility lists were established, up from 15 from last year. 48 regular appointments were made. That was up from 32 last year. And we've expanded the number of folks working in our classified in our summer schools, and that was up from 27 up from 14 from last year. And I think part of that is because of the number of special circumstance instructional aides that are a big part of our summer school program now. Some of the other points on there, the number of folks that were promoted, increase in work hours. I'll leave that to you. And again, highlighting the Joint Board Personnel Commission study session we had. There's some professional development opportunities also. The safety, injury, and illness prevention, positive behavior classroom management strategies, and supporting special needs. I just wanted to highlight that because that has been an area where folks have asked for a lot of support. And we just had a few of our folks go to the CSCA Professional Development Conference out in Sacramento, and they're going to be bringing that back. They're some of our special circumstance instructional aids. Oops. Now, finally, too many to mention, but we had over 29 folks help us on our oral panels. I know it's pretty small there, but it's something where, and I really want to acknowledge my colleague Lisa Sue reaching out, making an effort to speak with folks, getting them on the interview panels. We always make sure that we're respecting the rules laid out in the Personnel Commission, or personnel rules and regulations related to qualification application interview panels. It's hard. Some folks are always asked if there's anybody on any interview candidates that they feel if they have to recuse themselves because of any relationships or experiences with. So that's an ongoing thing they do at every one of our interview panels. So we have expanded the number of people, just trying to make sure that we get different faces in there when we can. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you. Well, actually, we have to take action on this item. Anybody want to make a motion on this item?
I make a motion to approve the Personnel Commission's 2018 annual report as presented.
Second?
There's a first and second to acknowledge or for the annual 2018 annual report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Next item is item 9A, new teacher induction and summer learning program updates. Ms. Jennifer LaRocque will share updates about the new teacher induction program and the information about the district's plan for summer learning.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. My name is Jennifer LaRocque, and I'm an administrator in the school district. And tonight I'm excited to share with you a quick update on our new teacher induction program and also share with you some of our summer experience options that we have for our students this year. As you know, the state of California requires all teachers to participate in a 2-year induction program to clear their credential. Jefferson has customized this 2-year program to best support our teachers. Our teachers are assigned a Jefferson support provider or coach for their 2 years. The support provider and the new teacher meet anywhere from a minimum of twice a month to every day. New teachers are coached on curriculum, communication, district practices, lunchroom lines, and anything in between. We want our new teachers to feel supported, have someone to lean on, and be their cheerleader at all times. This is a picture of a couple of our support providers during a professional development. We currently have 29 first and second year teachers who are being supported by 16 Jefferson support providers. For a new teacher, the general scope of induction requires 18 hours a year of professional development. They have to collaborate with their support provider, and though not required by the state, we find it important to calendar time for new teachers to observe veteran teachers in action. The support provider will arrange this for the new teacher, and as with the majority of the school districts, Jefferson financially supports the state induction of our new teachers. Our support providers are required to participate in 15 hours of coaching professional development a year. Most of our providers are selected based on their leadership skills and the commitment to district initiatives. They collaborate with their new teachers, as well as arranging the peer observations. And of course, for all their work, we do give them a stipend. Here are a few more of our support providers at one of their coaching professional developments. Now, they're all smiles here, but it's about 7 o'clock at night, so they're kind of faking it. But they showed up and they did a great job. Even though it's only March, we have been planning for the summer already. As we jump into our summer experiences for 2019, it's helpful to take a quick look back to see what we've accomplished and where we can build. Research has shown that students lose an average of 2 months of academic learning during the summertime. Our goal for our summer experiences is to have them stop the learning loss. For our Big Lift program, we serve kindergarten through 2nd grade. Our goal is to keep the kids at the red pole, no summer learning loss. And as you can see, from 2016 through 2018, we've not only met our goal, but we have gained a month of language arts learning, which in actuality, if you take in account the 2 months of summer loss that they may have had not returning to our program, we've actually grown them 3 months of language learning. Last year was our first year that we offered Power Scholars Academy for our 3rd through 8th graders. In Power Scholars, we offered language arts and math curriculum, whereas in Big Lift, we only offered language arts. As you can see from the chart, again, the red pole being our goal, in math, we improved students' 2.5-month growth, and in language arts, we reached our goal. When planning for summer 2019, we hope to meet our goal, if not exceed our goal. We're happy to report that many of our summer staff is returning this summer, and we know that will help with the transition for our students and make a seamless, productive summer. So, didn't realize that did that till earlier when I tried it out. So for this year, we will again offer Big Lift to our incoming kinders, incoming 1st and incoming 2nd grade students. We'll offer Power Scholars to our incoming 3rd through incoming 8th grade students. And this year, new to us, we are adding a Stanford residency camp for our incoming 7th and 8th grade girls. We, of course, continue to offer ESY for students who have it written into their IEPs, which will be managed by the special ed department. We are planning for our 4th summer experience with Big Lift. The Big Lift is funded 90% through the Big Lift grant and 10% through the Jefferson parcel tax funds. Similar to last year, we'll be doing Rising K through Rising 2nd. Our program will run 4 weeks long, with a focus on ELA and STEAM enrichment. We run all day, 8:30 to 4:30, 5 days a week. We offer breakfast, lunch, and an afternoon snack. And we have space for 390 scholars. As of today, we have almost filled. We opened up enrollment on February 11th and are almost completely full. And of the participating districts, the 7 participating districts that are participating in the Big Lift summer program, we currently have the highest enrollment as of today. Clearly, our parents support the program, and we all find a need for it. For our Power Scholars Academy, this is our 2nd summer offered. Jefferson received a grant from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, which has allowed us to double our enrollment this summer. This grant has us focusing on 4th and 5th grade scholars, so we've opened additional spaces in those grades. The funding is 75% through the grant and 25% funded through the JESD parcel tax funds. Again, we're Rising 3rd through 8th. It runs the same time frame as our Big Lift program to help families who may have children in both programs. We do ELA, math, and STEAM. Same thing with breakfast, lunch, and a snack, and we have space for 200 scholars, which is again doubled from last year. I broke up our current enrollment in 2 slides because the 4th and 5th graders, we have 50 slots for each, and you can see for our 4th grade, we're almost full. We have 48 kids currently enrolled. Our 5th grade, we're halfway there. Our 3rd grade is full with a waiting list. 6th grade is close. Now, our 7th and 8th grade was low last year, and we have a couple of reasons of why we think that. Alumni received email invitations And scholars were invited to this program based, if they weren't alumni, they were invited to the program based on an assessment performance that happened in December. And depending on where they scored, they were invited. They got an invitation in their report card envelope when they were invited. And then this morning, they were followed up with an email invitation in case they missed it in their report card envelope. So those were our enrollment numbers as of this morning, but my guess is that they've already gone up since they've gotten the email. So we are, oh, did I skip a video? I did skip a video. Hang on a second, we gotta go back to a video. Just to give you a refresher as to what the Big Lift Inspiring Summers is all about. Many of you have probably already seen this video, but we thought we would share it again this evening. Let me go back.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher, a ballerina, a doctor. I want to be a fireman, an artist. I can be anything I want to be. My favorite thing about school is having new friends. My favorite is Oreos and apple juice. I know a couple different languages. I like doing math. 100 plus 100 makes 200. I know that dinosaurs lived in the desert a long time ago. My favorite thing to learn is stories. My favorite books are sharks. I like doing yoga at school because it feels good. I like being here at school. It helped us get ready. I'm excited to go to the Big Lift.
That looked familiar to you, that was JFK.
Yeah.
Am I pointing it at you? Yeah, okay. So we're very excited to offer this opportunity to our current sixth and seventh grade girls. Jefferson had this opportunity in 2015, and we're excited to offer it again. In the mornings, the students will be taught by a team of instructors led by Joe Bowler, professor of mathematics and education at the Stanford Graduate School of Education. In the afternoon, the students will be mentored by undergraduate students and will participate in personal growth experiences and fun math activities. It's a 2-week program. The girls will get to stay in the dorms there. Parents will be invited on the weekends, drop off and pick up. And it's 100% funded by the Stanford grant. It's offered to 40 of our girls. All the families in grades 6 and 7 have received an email registration flyer. All the 6th and 7th grade teachers are promoting this opportunity in their classrooms. And with the help of Jessica Pace's team, the coaches, the site administrators, they're all being promoted within the classroom. Colored flyers will also be sent home early next week. Registration closes March 29th, so we have a really tight time to get the word out for our families. And Stanford will let the girls, which girls were selected, by April 1st. In the email that I wrote the families this morning, I said to them, if your daughter loves math, this is the camp for her. If your daughter hates math, this is definitely the camp for her. And this is a little snippet of what camp might be like.
Some people think I'm not good at math. I can never do anything. I'm not good at it. I'm just gonna give up.
A lot of people think of it as like prison, like you don't have any freedom. Okay, time to go to your notebook. Okay, read chapter 1. Okay, here's your worksheet. The math textbook, it's kind of like the Bible. You have to kind of worship the textbook, and I don't really like that.
Everybody's going so quickly, and I thought if I didn't go quick, people think I'm like not smart.
I made a lot of mistakes, and I got really sad about it.
You make a mistake, you're pretty much done. Yeah.
They can't do it fast, and they're so smart because they can, and I'm not smart, and I just kind of stopped.
You feel like you're serving a sentence for like nothing.
I love it. That does look like a cuboid.
Oh, we got it! I've done better with math when I was talking with people, sharing ideas. 4 or 5 brains work better than one.
I'll see it one way, but then someone else will see it another way, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
I love that we're getting different answers out because lots of problems in math, there are different answers.
Have more than one way to solve the question.
Because in real life, you're not gonna just do one thing. You're gonna do many things. You're gonna need to use different methods. Yay!
No, hold on. Take your time and just experiment with every way that could possibly work.
You definitely have to be patient because certain problems, they take forever.
Math isn't about speed, and you can make mistakes and you learn from them.
Yeah, I did that too!
Yes! Told you!
Math isn't like the enemy, and it can't hurt me.
You can run wild, you can pass ideas by each other.
I thought that math was all about right answers and wrong. Now that I believe that math is really about ideas and creativity, it's a lot more inspiring.
Nice. Questions?
I have a question. For the Stanford math program, how do you select the 40 students? Is it based off of like their work throughout the year, or is it?
So the camp has multiple purposes. One is to provide an opportunity for these young ladies to experience math all day long over a 2-week period, and get them excited about math. But the second purpose is the university's purpose of trying to figure out and learn what engages young ladies, young girls in mathematics, and so they select the students. And so hopefully we're hoping to recruit 80 students. 40 of them will be selected based on the profiles that they need to do their research study.
Cool, thank you. I'll say it's also great to see that our partial tax funds are actually helping to expand these programs and make sure that more students can actually be part of these summer programs as well.
Questions? I just think it's amazing. I think, for example, I think Big Lift made the right decision when they picked JESD first. And considering all of the budget cuts, I think it's wonderful to see that a lot of it is funded by the partner and that we're not carrying the heavy of that. I know that Big Lift took a huge hit with budget cuts, and so it was nice to see that they're still able to fund the Inspiring Summers. 90% of the funding is coming directly from them. I wanted to ask about the invitation piece. I know when you said there were 2 ways, was to be invitations went to alumni and then based on an assessment piece, but considering that there's always children that come from families, and that's why you have the Power Scholars that might have a student in Big Lift, is that factored in? Or is it, or I mean, I know you mentioned the two ways they get invited.
It's two different programs. So the Big Lift, the alumni are automatically invited, and then it's just qualifications based on your income, and then it's open to everybody. For the Power Scholars, which are our extension program that we added, that is based on alumni, has first priority, and then it's based on an assessment that the students took in December, wherever they landed for their performance scores. We invited them as well because we believe that the students that we invited are scoring just below average, and we don't want them to suffer the learning loss during the summertime. So we felt that if we expose them to 4 weeks of a summer program, by the time they hit fall, that they could have that little extra boost in the fall time to perform at standard or above.
Thank you.
And yes, siblings get priority for the Power Scholars. So if they have a younger sibling in the Big Lift program, siblings get invited to the Power Scholars as well, and they'll be placed at the site that has the two programs close to each other, so drop-off issues are mitigated.
Yeah.
Which in this case would be JFK and TRP.
Thank you. I'm just excited. I'm very proud to hear of this wonderful work that is happening. I know when I was at the county census meeting, they were talking about hard-to-reach communities, and they were talking about the priorities in communities that are hard to reach and low-income communities, and they talked about that learning loss, and they talked about after-school programming, and we're doing all that, and we're extending it throughout the summer. I mean, teaching is such a noble profession in and outside of the classroom, and it's wonderful to see that magic continues to expand here at JESD, so thank you.
Well, thanks for showing us this, and it's exciting, and I know that those students are learning, and that's really important.
Just a quick note about the Stanford program. As Ms. LaRock mentioned, we were invited to be part of the 2015 UCubed camp. 2 districts, us and another district on the peninsula. And over the years, they've needed to contact the district. They need additional information. They want to follow these students over time. And Dr. Bowler's impressed with our ability to follow up and support that effort. We even contact high schools. What school is the student at? Dr. Bowler needs to interview him or her. Can you let us come in? So we do that for them because it's, she can't just call a school and say, I need to talk to student Johnny. They will never let her do that. So we do that for her. In fact, one student she really needed to get a hold of transferred to schools and was in Southern California. And through our partnership with the high school district, we said, here's the student's name, here's the student's ID number, can you help us locate her? And they did find her in Santa.
Time's up.
Yeah, time's up. They found her in Santa Monica. So they contacted her there, and she got an interview, and the reason she was of interest is because she was one of the students that made the most growth that summer, and they wanted to see how is she doing as a 10th grader or 9th grader. Wow. Has that sustained, and has her love for math that she found that summer continued. So
I had a couple of questions. This is all very exciting, and I'm so happy that these programs are available for our students. I did want to ask specific questions about the Stanford program. You said 40 girls. Is that 40 just for our district or for everybody participating?
No, it's just our district.
That's
so
awesome.
They just decided to stick with us and not,
Nice.
Because we've been very responsive and supportive.
Nice.
They want to follow these students through high school. So,
will we see any reports from those studies?
Yes, we can arrange for that. I think Dr. Bowler came in 2015 and presented to the board some of the initial results of the. So we will invite her again.
Good. And what are the dates for the residency?
August 4th to August 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so they were also working with us on when we started school, and we said this is our first day of school. Schedule it around our schedule. So.
And really, the girls could go to Power Scholars and Math Camp if they wanted to.
And it really is. I mean, Stanford is a camp. in many ways. But they're gonna. It's not just math all day. They'll have some activities and scavenger hunts and fun things to do.
Thank you. Next item is item 10C, Garden Village Elementary School Grounds Master Plan Construction Documents.
Yeah, so this is I could have put this on an asterisk consent item, but I just wanted to highlight that this is one of the first Measure U funds that we're going to use because Measure U was passed to help support the safety improvements, and at Garden Village we do have a terrible problem with drop-off and pickup, and this is a proposal from an architect who's going to help us design an efficient and safe drop-off and pickup in addition to other improvements on their yard. So it's the first school that we're going to revamp that, and one of the ones that's most needed.
Are they working on the bottom part or the top?
It's both.
Both?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments by board members?
Will we be able to see what's happening?
Yeah, we can share a project proposal when it's complete. Essentially, we're need to move people away from the top because that's where the congestion happens. It's very narrow. People can get in, and they can't get out, and then tempers flare. So we need an easy way for families to drop off and pick up, and essentially the concept at this point, if it can be done, is to move all of that down to the yard and come in from one street and exit on Park Plaza. So it's a one-way thing because we can't do an in and out there on that street. I forget the name of it. It's the other side of Washington. It doesn't work to do in and out from that little driveway, and folks would be making left turns. They're not supposed to, so it would just be an easy come in one street, drop off your students, exit out another street, make a right turn only, hopefully.
From the bottom, enter in and out on Washington Street, you said?
No, they don't enter in and out. They just enter from that street, and then they exit on Park Plaza.
Mm-hmm. So okay. I'm trying to picture what you mean.
It would actually come.
They'll drive on. A portion of the blacktop will be made for a lane. So instead of a roundabout that we see at some schools, they don't have that space. It's more of an in and out diagonal or around the fence line. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That used to be connected to Ben Franklin.
I'm sure it was.
Because they built the apartments, they paid for that land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always wondered why that was the only elementary and middle school that were not connected with the field. So now we know.
It was connected, but yep. In fact, they ended up paying former property owners too, because we had a building over there.
I know there's a lot of added traffic because of the other school there, so the architect can keep that in mind, that the flow is not just going to Garden Village, it's also going towards Ben Franklin, so it's double the traffic actually.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to encourage families to use a different way to get into that Washington Street entrance, to enter, I don't know what the names of the streets are, but the ones closer to Sullivan, and come in that way. Because, Broadmoor Police has identified many families who want to take a left turn into that driveway. They can't take a left turn. They start to back up onto 87th, and that creates other issues because now you have people in the intersection, and so getting them to come up and around and down the hill into the driveway.
The problem we're having right now on Park Plaza is that there's all kinds of trucks and vans and people living on that street.
Yes.
And it's becoming really dangerous for kids to walk over there.
Yeah, that's happening all over the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So, we'll create, if there's more activity in that area, it becomes less attractive.
I just had a question about the timeline for this. I mean, to get started and the timeline to get renderings.
So the hope is to get these plans drawn up and submitted. They do need to go to Sacramento to be approved. The hope is to begin construction in June.
Oh, work through the summer.
Work through the summer and be done as soon as possible. It is out of the way enough that if they weren't done, nobody knows this route or this pattern yet, so it's not like you're disrupting existing patterns of drop-off. So everything always takes longer. So it shouldn't be that disruptive. People will still use their current habits, and then we'll start a campaign to educate about new habits.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to motion the approval of Garden Village Elementary School grounds master plan construction as written.
First and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. Next item is item 13A, Board Study Session, CSBA 2018 Annual Education Conference. Board member Manufo Liaga Anawai will highlight some of her learnings at the CSBA 2018 conference in San Francisco from November 29th to December 1st, 2018.
Thank you. I always mess up and I don't get the first spot when we do presentations, and I've landed in the last spot for the past 3 years now. And interestingly enough, my two biggest takeaways from the session were, which I shared with our superintendent, was about the human trafficking workshop. Most of the workshops I did attend, especially the social and emotional workshop, I always go to that one because I feel very directly connected to that, being a mother of a special needs child. But the one that made me feel really rejuvenated to get a better understanding of our youth getting a grasp of healthy relationships was that human trafficking workshop, because I wish they had a different title. I think when I sat in there, people kept thinking human trafficking. There was a huge disconnect. But the workshop actually connected a lot about healthy relationships. And I think if they titled it so, you would have had more people in there. I shared basically because of the requirement. I shared with the superintendent when they spoke to the requirements that we have to abide by with regards to what we offer in the school district. But more importantly, I see the struggle of our students understanding what a relationship is and understanding the boundaries of relationships and what healthy looks like, and what normal should look like as far as being safe. So I had shared with the superintendent after that workshop that the video that I watched, Jasmine Strong, was about 3 to 5 minutes, 5 minutes max, but it was so powerful. And I really think that as educators, as parents, as community members, it's available on YouTube, that we should take the time to watch it and share it. And I am very interested in our district considering the curriculum. I know the superintendent was made aware of that. There's different aspects of the curriculum. You don't have to take it on in its entirety, but I do feel that there are pieces of that curriculum that we can always benefit from. So that was something that moved me. But outside of the actual workshops, which I think impacted all of us, was not crossing the picket line and understanding the importance of the people power that we have, and really how disappointed I was in CSBA's position. I know that can be contradictory, being that we're board members, but I speak as a community person tonight, where it's important that we support our families and our community. And that was a huge topic of discussion that nobody talked about. I mean, sure, people were on the picket line. Sure, people were talking about it on the sideline. But the reality is that we really had the power to shift things, to say that as consumers, we have the power to do that. And that was a lesson that we really could have had more of an impact on. And for me, I still sit with that. I sit with that when I think to CSBA. I sit with that when I think about our systems and how a lot of times we go with the flow and we think after the process of how we can actually make better decisions of what we need to do and or not to do. And everything always seems to be attached to $1. And the reality is that we spend a lot of money to attend those conferences. And this was in our backyard. We either live or we interact with San Francisco. And that really hit home with me to look at the families and have them know that as community persons that we support them because one job should always be enough. But the reality is that we live in the Bay Area and it isn't enough, but they should feel supported. So for me, that was my biggest takeaway, more importantly as a community person and making sure that we're sensitive to that when we sit here and make those kinds of decisions that impact the families and our community that we serve. So those are my takeaways, and I challenge myself to make sure that I present first next time. Thank you. Can I sign up today? So.
Thank you. Next item is item 14A, Governance Handbook. The administration recommends the board review and adopt the Jefferson Elementary School District Governance Handbook 2019 updates discussed and developed with the assistance of CSBA at a governance leadership workshop on February 9th, 2019. Ms. Fidelis, did you want to?
Yes, I believe Sepi Yao took into consideration all of our amendments to the governance handbook. They are in a different color font if you had a chance to review it. And in particular, this does include the revised meeting guidelines that once they're approved, we will revise our slide and revise the placemats as reminders. And I think that's there were some, as you remember, there were some adjustments to the protocols we use for different processes, but it was overall the minor revisions to the handbook than in past years.
Any comments, questions? I remember. Bless you.
Bless you.
If there are none, I will entertain a motion on this item.
I have no questions, and so I would like to motion that we approve our board governance handbook.
Second, there's a first and a second to adopt the 2019 governance handbook updated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye, but as I look back at my notes, some of these things were not the way we talked about it. So, but the majority can go ahead and say, some of it is not exactly what we talked about, which I was disappointed.
Well, why don't you let me know, and then maybe we can bring it back for discussion at a future meeting.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Yeah. And I also felt that the session wasn't, there was a lot of waste of time talking about herself. Let's not get her back again. It took a long time to get to what we were trying to do. And that might be why some of the stuff wasn't exactly the way we talked about it. So.
Next item is item B, selecting date for special meeting on superintendent evaluation format and process. The board will select a date for a special meeting on evaluation format and process. The available dates are April 8th, 9th, 10th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, or 17th.
What did you say over?
It's just one date that we need to select, so you don't need to meet on all of those days.
Yeah, I know.
But I do imagine, I think a 2-hour meeting on one of those dates would work to accomplish what we would like to do.
So are there any dates by members that work best for them, or are there any that
do not work?
Yeah.
All dates work for me. as of right now, yeah.
Only 15, 16, 17 works for me. It's spring break.
Oh. Is that,
The first 3 days are our district spring breaks, yeah.
that's the 20th? 20th? So the week later? Oh, okay.
So you're saying 15, 16, 17 do not work,
I-
do work for you?
Any of those dates work for you? Or-
I think they do, but I don't have my calendar with me.
As far as Mr. Ali goes, he is sick tonight, and he's neither here nor in his class. He's recovering from a flu, but he generally has a class Tuesdays, most Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So the Monday, the 15th, may be his most available date.
So is this the, is it all day? Is it?
No, it would just be an 6 to or like what? How's early? 7 to 9, or 6:30 to 8:30, if we can do that.
So that's Monday. I can't do it the 17th. I can't do it the 17th.
Okay. Well, let's aim for Monday the 15th as a first choice. Tuesday the 16th. Monday the 15th, I think, unless suddenly Mr. Ali says, I can't make Monday, but I can make Tuesday. We can do that and try that. Okay, I will coordinate with him then.
This will be at the...
It'll be at the district office, yeah. It'll be in our conference room. It is not of interest to people. But it could be of interest. We'll have extra chairs. It's a public meeting, so.
They might want to come.
Are we
said
shooting for 6:30?
6 or 6:30?
6:30 work for folks? 7 o'clock?
To we feel.
I can, 6. With enough notice, I can make it work.
Yeah, just make sure you've mailed your taxes before the meeting, because you won't have much time to get it to the mailbox after.
15, 16, okay.
Okay. Okay, so sounds like April 15th, start time around 6:30, 7 o'clock at the district office. And then if needed, we'll adjust for another date accordingly. Okay. Next item is item C, closed session scheduling discussion. The board will discuss placement of closed session items for regular meetings.
Yeah, during our governance session, there was some discussion around moving our closed session possibly to the beginning of our meetings. I just wanted to check in with the board. The room is available before our meetings, but I do remember some board members stating that they couldn't do it every week. But I also think that it's helpful in terms of planning if we decided on, like the second Wednesday, if we have a closed session, it's going to be before the meeting. The fourth Wednesday, if it's going to have a closed session, it'll be after the meeting if people can't make it every time before the meeting. So that's a proposal that I would put on the board. And, we could, those of you who have job conflicts can discuss if you could make it every second and fourth. That's, would be like 6:30 as a start time for the meeting for a closed session.
Okay.
So if you can discuss among yourselves, if you want to alternate, if you want to do everyone, if you want to just keep it at the end, that's a conversation for you to have.
I have something I want to say on that. The reason this came up is because we seem to be meeting late in the evening to make an important decision, and it's been difficult on some matters. However, to start later, the meeting starting later, it affects our employees that would like to get home. But if the meeting starts at 8 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock.
Regular session will continue to start at 7 o'clock. Closed session
we're
would be.
going to have a closed session at 6:30 for a half hour?
Generally, most closed sessions can be accomplished in that. And as we shared at the time, if there's a closed session where we know that it'll be longer, we will probably select a different date just to do a closed session only.
Okay. Because that was my feeling, is we should just have it another day. so that we can pay attention to what the item is, because we seem to rush all the time on everything that we do, and then we're not good if we're here too late at night, so that's...
No, nobody is.
No, I mean, it's
No, it's
we
true.
all can experience that.
Would 6 o'clock be, I mean, I actually want to take into consideration President Koo, because I know that, I think we were a little bit more flexible, but would that be something that could work for you if it was scheduled?
I think just 6 o'clock would work, just with enough
On those
notice.
special, yeah.
I realize, like, if it's every meeting, then it might become more of a problem. But if there's a way to sort of plan ahead such that if they could be 6:30, that would be more ideal. If it's 6 o'clock, I think with enough notice, that would work for me.
Yeah, I think I'd like to suggest 6 o'clock only because I know in closed session, we tend to go a little bit longer. I don't see 30 minutes being enough or adequate time.
I agree.
But if we could consider 6 o'clock for those closed sessions when we're alert, and it's not 10 or midnight like it has been going long. But I'd like to propose 6 instead of 6:30, if that'd be okay with the superintendent. And
So is that something that you want for every meeting? Like, we do need to reserve the room, so, or one meeting a month at 6 o'clock?
When I ask a question, why we reserve another room? People can wait outside and the doors are closed. We meet in here.
Correct. Yeah. We
don't need an extra room.
No, we need to reserve this room.
Oh, okay, I'm
For
sorry.
a
I thought
period
you
of time.
said reserve another room.
No, reserve this room, yes.
Yeah.
would that work for everyone, or?
Would that work for you? Yeah.
You didn't hear it
We'll
yet.
talk about that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that later, but yes, it's fine, I believe.
If there's a way to make it, I don't know if this is too much to accommodate, but maybe one meeting a month that starts at 6, and then the other one, if it's like a shorter one, 6:30 if possible. If it's a simpler closed session.
There aren't that many closed session items or something that would take longer. That sounds great.
Okay, so does it make sense to say that if it's a meeting that happens on the second Wednesday, if we have a closed session, we'll start it at 6 if we need it, at 6:30 if we don't. If it's a fourth Wednesday, we'll always start it at 6:30.
Sure.
Is that?
Well, I mean, how do we know that one item's going to take longer than the other? We have to be able to do the business.
Correct.
And I think an hour for a closed session is not a long time. And if we need it, we need it. And sometimes we have more than one item.
No, and that's where I said if we anticipate it being a lengthy closed session item, we will schedule another time. We won't do it on a Wednesday. We'll do it at another date where you can have 2 hours or however much you need. But we can, I want to be sensitive to our board members who said they can't make a 6 o'clock meeting every Wednesday that we meet. But you can do it once a month, perhaps?
Yeah, I can make it work.
Okay. All right, well, I'll play around with the possible schedule, and I'll work with the board president. We'll announce it in time for you to be able to make your own schedules. Okay.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Next item is item 15, governance team member comments, reports, and reflection on board meeting guidelines. Ms. Braswell, let's go first.
Okay. We'll keep our focus on the best interest of our students. And we look forward to the new one coming up.
Ms. Manu?
I chose actively listening, openly listening, building upon others of ideas, looking for common ground, and paraphrasing for understanding, which I believe I did.
We will come to meetings on time, prepared, attentive, and ready to contribute.
And for me, we will keep our best interests keep our focus on the best interests of our students, and I feel that we all did that tonight.
Yeah, they were great, the kids.
Next item is persons wishing to address the board on closed session items. Are there any speakers on that topic? No. Seeing none, we're going to convene to closed session. First, I'm going to convene in adjourn in memory of Marco Tony Angelo, who's custodian at Thomas Edison Elementary School and is the husband of Gwen Rushlow, who is an instructional assistant for physical education at Franklin D. Roosevelt School. Mr. Angelo has been an employee with the districts since July 3rd, 2014, and Ms. Rushlow since June 1st, 1998. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. We will convene to closed session after a 5-minute recess. Thank you.